Today on The Big Story, China has angry words for the US as Trump signs bills backing Hong Kong protesters. Employment rates rise as wage growth slows. What does this mean? More details have emerged regarding actor and model Godfrey Gao's sudden death. Hello and welcome to The Big Story, where we'll discuss the top news of today and explain why it matters. I'm Kimberly Jiao, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. China has strongly criticized US President Donald Trump's signing of the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. China's foreign ministry said in a statement that it amounted to gross interference into China's internal affairs and again warned Washington there could be unspecified consequences. The Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, China's top office overseeing Hong Kong policy, soon followed with its own criticism, saying the act was full of prejudice and arrogance and underscored the sinister intention of the US. President Trump signed into law an act that could bring diplomatic action and economic sanctions against the Hong Kong government. He also signed a law that prohibits the sale of US-made munitions such as tear gas and rubber bullets to Hong Kong authorities. Joining us now live via Skype is Hong Kong correspondent Claire Huang. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Kim.
So China's foreign ministry called this extremely abominable and harbors absolutely sinister intentions and said that it will take firm countermeasures if the United States continues to interfere in Hong Kong. So what exactly are we expecting here?
Well, China has said that Donald Trump's endorsement of the legislation will affect relations, saying that it would also undermine cooperation in important areas. What was left out is the fact that there is no detail on whether the Hong Kong law would affect two-way trade talks. What's also left out is that there are no new details of progress on US-China talks. So the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office in Hong Kong accused Washington of pitting itself against all 7 million people in Hong Kong, as well as the 1.4 billion Chinese people on the mainland. And this entire signing of the bill, this could definitely weigh in on US-China relations. It would chill relations. Will it freeze? That's what we don't know. Now, it's no surprise China would react this way. It can retaliate, of course, it can. But here's a thought. If Chinese elites have a lot of money parked in Hong Kong or moves their money through the city, how does it benefit them? And who will hurt more? Also, this comes against the backdrop of China's economy growing at the slowest pace in decades. And, on the US side, US businesses also feeling the heat from the trade war. So, this is just going to worsen.
I see. So I would ask more specifically, how do you think this bill is going to impact the Hong Kong protests?
Okay, for months, Hong Kong protesters have called for the US to pass the bill. They have passed it. Trump signed it. Protesters in October held a rally supporting the bill, and that was attended by about 100,000 people. So tonight, there is going to be an assembly in Central to thank Washington for its support in the anti-government movement in Hong Kong. The signed bill only serves to give the movement firmer leg to stand on. It will give protesters the confidence to continue, especially after the November 24th stunning victory by the pro-democracy camp in the district council elections.
I see. Well, thank you for taking the time to share more with us, Claire. Do stay safe out there. Now, you can access more of Claire's analyses on Hong Kong on straitstimes.com. The Manpower Ministry's Labour Report was released today, and despite the tough economic headwinds, employment rates and wages are still up, albeit just by a little bit. This year's wage increase of 2.2% is lower than last year's growth of 4.4%. Median monthly income for those working full-time is $4,563, up from $4,437 the year before. The employment rate for those aged between 25 and 64 inched up to 80.8%. It was 80.3% in 2018. Amongst those aged 65 and above, the employment rate performed better. It rose to 27.6%, up from 26.8% last year. With us today to help us make sense of these numbers is journalist Sue Ann Tan. Hi, Sue Ann.
Hi.
Could you break down these many numbers for us?
I think the first thing to note is that the survey was taken from June last year to June this year. And that's the period that we saw the US-China trade war really escalate. And that's also when we had the fears of a technical recession because our GDP growth numbers were quite low. So amid all these economic uncertainties, we actually saw the employment rate edge up slightly, which shows that some companies are still growing. And the growth has happened in some sectors that are less affected by the trade war, which means they are less externally oriented sectors. The top 5 sectors that saw the highest employment growth in this period are community, social and personal services, infocom services, professional services, financial and insurance services, and then the F&B sector. So as we can see, these are not really the manufacturing or the retail and wholesale trade. And while some jobs may be affected by the economic slowdown, some companies have also told us that they are still expanding, which means they're going overseas and they're still hiring workers. So that might be some of the reasons for the employment rate still edging up slightly.
I see.
But in terms of wage growth, we see that it has slowed. And I think economists have said this is definitely the dampening effect of the trade war. So companies are holding back.
I see. So, when we're talking about employment, right, how is it that the rate of increase is sort of higher for those aged 65 and above?
So we do see that companies have been starting to increase their measures to accommodate older workers. And this is especially after the National Day Rally announcements that we are raising the employment, the retirement and the re-employment ages. So I think because of this, the companies are preparing for this aging workforce. And so they have measures like more flexible work arrangements, more adjustments to the work environment, and even things like shifting around the physical environment so that these older workers can continue to stay in the workforce.
I see. So it's making it more accommodating
yes.
for the work.
So it's allowing them to work longer.
I see. So what would you say is the outlook going forward?
I think analysts have said that the outlook for the labour market anyway is that the conditions will still remain soft because a lot of it depends on business and consumer confidence and whether that increases, and that is still dependent on the trade and geopolitical conditions. As we know, the US-China trade war is still not over, and even though there are signs of negotiations, but anything could change. And so they will have to look at those things in order to see how the employment rate will edge up perhaps a little bit more in the next few quarters.
Oh, okay. So we'll see whether things stabilize or they don't, and then they'll decide.
Yes, it's still left open.
I see. Well, thanks so much for coming on to share more with us. And if you'd like more of this article and the full numbers, it is available on straitstimes.com. And now let's move on to What's Trending, where Dylan will share with us what's buzzing in the internetverse. Dylan?
Thanks, Kim. It's time for What's Trending. First up, nailed it, or perhaps the wrong thing. A 66-year-old man was arrested yesterday after he was seen using a hammer to hit passing vehicles in Bedok. In a Facebook video, the man is seen pacing the road barefoot. He then hits a lorry before being rugby tackled and pinned to the ground by a police officer. Police said that he'll be charged for committing a rash act. He has since been taken to IMH for psychiatric assessment. Next, real-life knuckles gone wrong. A submarine carrying 3 tons of cocaine worth $110 million was seized off the Spanish coast in northwestern Spain. While drug traffickers have been caught using submarines to transport cocaine into Mexico and then into the United States, police said that this is the first time that this system of transporting drugs has been detected in Europe. Finally, love it or hate it, the Miss Universe Singapore national costume is back in the spotlight and opinions are once again divided. Remember last year's Trump-Kim Summit-inspired dress? Well, this year's dress is a piece from Filipino designer Michael Cinco's couture collection, The Impalpable Dream of Swan Lake. Some felt that the detailing on the neck area of the fuchsia Vanda Miss Joaquim-inspired gown resembled our national flower. Others were not so impressed and took offense to the fact that the dress was not done by a local brand and designer. What do you think? Do you like it? That's all for What's Trending today. If you've seen a story you want to share, link it in the comments section below. Back to you, Kim.
Thanks, Dylan. More details have emerged regarding model actor Godfrey Gao, who died suddenly on Wednesday while filming a variety show. Reports estimate Gao to have worked almost non-stop for 17 hours before he collapsed, and he was said to be unwell when he attended an event in Taiwan on Monday. Gao was a guest on the show Chase Me, a nighttime variety series which focuses on physical tasks for its contestants. According to a statement on Chase Me's official Weibo account, medical staff on the show immediately attended to Gao and he was rushed to the hospital, where sudden cardiac death was pronounced. Zhejiang Television has since announced that it has stopped filming the nighttime variety series. With us in the studio now to talk about this is ST journalist Jan Lee. Hi Jan. So this news came quite suddenly. What has been the reaction so far to this?
I think people are definitely shocked and angry and sad, of course. Shocked because Godfrey Gao, by all accounts, was really in the prime of life. He was very fit, he's very tall, he was a model, clearly he was in very good shape. And up till like hours before his death, fans saw him and he seemed to be doing okay, he seemed to be active and looked fine. And of course, fans are in mourning, and the stars that he worked with are very sad because by all accounts, he seemed to be an extremely nice man. He's never really had any negative news or controversy, no drama with him, the type to really like keep his head down and do the work. Right. And I think he was somebody that people really looked up to in terms of Asian representation because he was the first Asian male model to front a Louis Vuitton campaign. He broke into Hollywood, so I think there are people who definitely looked up to him in that way. Yeah, the anger part is mostly directed at the variety series that he was filming, Chase Me. Some people suspect that maybe the safety precautions weren't very well done, but these are all speculations at this point.
Right, actually, now that you've mentioned that people are accusing Chase Me of being sort of dangerous or overly difficult, what's your take on this?
I think there is no doubt that that it is an extremely physically demanding variety series. But I think one of the regular cast members, William Chan Chen Wei-ting, said that he is one of the toughest gigs he ever had to do. So he did mention that once in a previous interview. So there is it is clear that this is a difficult variety series.
You don't hide this.
Yes, but the thing is, you have to think that this is not uncommon. Like you think of something like Ninja Warrior, that's also extremely physically demanding. Even like South Korean series Running Man, they have wrestling in the mud, chasing matches. They ask the talents to bungee jump. So this is not super unheard of. It did seem to be a bit more demanding than the regular sports variety show, but it is debatable how much they prepared for emergencies. I think the show has to answer to that. It's also good to remember that sudden cardiac death is tragic and it's senseless, but it's not unheard of. We know cases of athletes collapsing, of even like army boys collapsing midway through running. And Gao's manager has come out to clarify that he was attended to immediately. So because there were rumors that the show didn't cut, negligent, they took a very long time to attend to him. And Gao's manager has come to say that's not true. And the nuance here is, I think it's important to remember that for a show, it's truly the worst thing to have a star die on set. The show is over, it's never coming back, and fans will be angry because stars have fans and fans rally behind these people. So sponsors are cutting ties, in this case I think it was the smartphone company Vivo cutting ties with it. So it is in a show's interest, drama or variety, to protect its talents, to protect the stars. And it's also important to remember that a star is very likely the most well taken care person on set. They have managers advocating for them, they have assistants to take care of them, they will be fed, they will be clothed, especially famous stars like Godfrey Gao, and that even if they do work long hours, their working hours are likely to be shorter than, say, the lighting guys, the sound guys, people who do the set, the production staff. So that's a nuance that I think is good to keep in mind. I think the show definitely should clarify some of the safety precautions that were in place and whether they were truly prepared for it. That's really up for debate, and we really have to, it's a conversation to be had. And I think it is a conversation to be had about why variety shows keep trying to up the ante to be like, this challenge is really difficult, come tune in, because they're trying to earn eyeballs, and there's a conversation to be had about whether this is even necessary. And Zhejiang Television, which is the broadcast station behind Chase Me, has had a history of like some workplace accidents that people are pointing to in light of Gao's death, to say that maybe they are not the best at managing this sort of sets. So of course all of that has to be addressed. But I think online right now there are a lot of rumors about the number of hours he worked, about whether he was attended to immediately. They are all rumors. They are absolutely all rumors. They are all based on unverified accounts, first hand, second hand, third hand, we don't know. So at this point, I think a lot of people are out for blood. They're angry, right? Because he died and it's a young, vibrant life and it's just gone so suddenly and people cannot accept it and they're angry. But it's also good to remember that at this point, a lot of things are speculation and we really just have to take a step back before we make judgment.
I see. So, as you say, wise to reserve judgment until sort of more details come to light.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Jen, for coming on to share more with us. And those were the top stories of the day. For more news and videos, do head on to our website at straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Kimberly Jiao. Join us tomorrow for more of The Big Story.